Wolf attacks and a lone human child in the forest. What Mother Bear did put everyone in tears. Let us know where you are watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you love our content. The mist hung low between the ancient pines, turning the forest into a maze of shadows and whispers. 7-year-old Raven Shadow Deer clutched her worn leather medicine pouch closer to her chest, her small moccasins crushing fallen leaves beneath them. She hadn't meant to wander so far from her grandmother's cabin, but the sacred herbs she sought had led her deeper and deeper into the heart of the wilderness. The sweet scent of yarrow flowers had drawn her forward, promising to help with her little brother's fever. Her grandmother, Morning Star, had always said that the most powerful medicines grew in the deepest parts of the forest, where few dared to venture. The setting sun painted long shadows through the trees, making every bush and branch seem alive with movement. Raven's heart pounded against her ribs as she realized she no longer recognized the path before her. The sweet grass and sage in her pouch seemed to weigh heavier with each step, a reminder of her grandmother's warnings about wandering too far from home. The trees around her had changed too. These weren't the friendly maple and birch that surrounded their cabin. These were ancient pines, their bark black with age, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers in the growing darkness. Raven touched the silver pendant at her throat, a gift from her grandmother, shaped like a bear's paw. Morning Star had told her it would protect her, but now, as the shadows lengthened and the forest grew stranger, she wondered if even the pendant's magic would be enough. Her little brother, Sky's face flashed in her mind. He needed these medicines. She couldn't go back empty-handed. A twig snapped somewhere in the growing darkness. Raven froze, her dark eyes wide as she scanned the misty spaces between the trees. Another crack, closer this time. The sound of heavy breathing that wasn't her own. Then, from behind a thick pine trunk, a massive gray wolf emerged, its yellow eyes fixed upon her with terrible hunger. Its fur was matted and dirty, nothing like the proud wolves she'd seen running along the ridges in winter. Raven's throat closed up with fear. Her grandmother had taught her about the wolves, how they usually avoided humans, how they hunted in packs. But this one was alone, and something about its gaunt frame and desperate eyes told her it wasn't following the usual rules. The wolf's ribs showed through its matted fur, and an old scar ran down its face, speaking of hard times and harder choices. Its tongue lolled from its mouth, and foam flecked its lips. Signs her grandmother had warned meant sickness, danger, madness. Time seemed to slow as the wolf took one step forward, then another. Raven backed away slowly, remembering her grandmother's teachings. Never run from a predator. But her foot caught on a root and she stumbled backward, landing hard on the forest floor. The medicine pouch spilled open, scattering precious herbs across the earth. The yarrow flowers she'd gathered for Sky scattered like pale stars on the dark ground. The wolf's muscles tensed, preparing to spring. That's when the forest itself seemed to shake with an earth-shattering roar. Through the mist, a massive shape rose up behind Raven, taller than any person, broader than any tree trunk. The air filled with the musky scent of bear, and Raven felt warm breath on the back of her neck. But strangely, terrifyingly, she felt no fear of this new presence. Instead, an inexplicable sense of safety washed over her as the enormous brown bear stepped forward, placing itself between her and the wolf. The bear's fur was streaked with silver, and Raven could see old battle scars across its shoulders. But what caught her attention most were its eyes, deep amber pools that held something far more than animal instinct. The bear glanced back at her for just a moment, and in that gaze, Raven saw something impossible: understanding, protection, and a flash of what could only be described as maternal concern. Looking into those eyes, Raven remembered the stories her grandmother had told her about spirit animals, about how sometimes the greatest helpers came in unexpected forms. The wolf snarled, revealing yellowed teeth, but the sound was tinged with uncertainty now. The bear's presence had changed everything. Steam rose from the bear's breath in the cool evening air as it stood its ground, its massive form casting a protective shadow over Raven. The pendant at her throat seemed to grow warm, pulsing like a tiny heartbeat against her skin. Behind her, Raven heard more movement in the forest. Different this time, lighter, almost musical. Through gaps in the trees, she caught glimpses of dancing lights, like fireflies but larger, brighter. They seemed to gather around the bear, illuminating its fur with an otherworldly glow. The wolf saw them too, and for the first time, fear crept into its savage eyes. The bear rose to its full height, towering over both Raven and the wolf. Its roar this time was different, not just a sound of challenge or threat, but something deeper, more ancient. It reminded Raven of the songs her grandmother sang during healing ceremonies, songs that seemed to come from the earth itself. The wolf took a step back, then another, its tail dropping low. But hunger and sickness made it desperate. The wolf's muscles bunched, preparing for one final, deadly lunge. Raven could see the moment the decision crystallized in its fevered brain. Better to die fighting than to die slowly of starvation. As it leaped forward, time seemed to slow again. Raven saw everything with crystal clarity, the individual hairs of the wolf's fur standing on end, the gleam of its teeth, the way the mysterious lights swirled and danced through the air like living stars. The bear moved with impossible grace for something so large. One massive paw swept through the air, catching the wolf mid-leap. But instead of the violence Raven expected, something extraordinary happened. Where the bear's paw touched the wolf, golden light spread through its matted fur. The wolf's eyes widened, not in pain but in surprise. It fell to the ground, but softly, as if laid there by gentle hands. For a moment, everything was still. The wolf lay on its side, breathing heavily, but the foam was gone from its mouth. Its fur seemed cleaner, healthier. The scar on its face had faded to a pale line. The bear lowered itself back to all fours and made a soft huffing sound, almost like a mother soothing a sick child. The mysterious lights swirled closer, and in their glow, Raven finally understood what she was seeing. These weren't spirit lights at all. They were moths, hundreds of them, their wings glowing with an inner light she'd never seen before. They gathered around the wolf, their light pulsing in rhythm with the pendant at her throat. The wolf's eyes cleared, the yellow fever light fading from them, replaced by a natural, healthy amber. As the moth light danced around them, the forest itself seemed to hold its breath. The bear lowered its massive head, gentle huffs of warm breath stirring Raven's hair. Without fear, she reached up and touched its broad snout, feeling the rough texture of old scars beneath her small fingers. The bear's fur was thick and warm, smelling of earth and pine needles and something else, something that reminded her of the sacred smoke her grandmother used in healing ceremonies. The wolf stirred, rising shakily to its feet. But there was no more madness in its movements, no desperate hunger in its eyes. It looked at Raven and the bear with clear recognition, then lowered its head in what could only be described as a bow. The moth light caught on its fur, making it shimmer like starlit silver. As Raven watched in wonder, more shapes emerged from the misty forest, other wolves moving with quiet grace between the trees. Unlike the sick wolf, these were healthy, proud creatures with thick fur and bright eyes. They approached their healed pack member with gentle touches of nose and paw, welcoming it back into their family. The bear watched this reunion with what seemed like satisfaction. Its huge body relaxed now that the danger had passed. But it made no move to leave Raven's side, instead settling down beside her with a contented rumble that vibrated through the ground. The moths continued their ethereal dance, their light revealing more of the forest's secrets. Raven saw that the scattered herbs from her medicine pouch had taken root where they fell, tiny shoots of green already pushing up through the dark earth. The yarrow flowers she'd gathered for Sky were glowing with the same inner light as the moths, their healing power magnified by the magic of this sacred place. "Grandmother was right," Raven whispered, her voice filled with awe. "The strongest medicine does grow in the deep forest." She gathered some of the glowing yarrow, carefully placing it in her pouch. The bear watched her with those knowing amber eyes, and Raven understood that this had been no chance encounter. The spirit world had guided her here, to this moment, to learn something profound about healing, about the connection between all living things. The wolf pack began to move away, melting back into the forest shadows. But before they disappeared, the healed wolf turned back one last time. Its eyes met Raven's, and in that moment she felt a deep understanding pass between them. The wolf's sickness hadn't just been in its body. It had been a sickness of the spirit, born of loneliness and fear. The bear's healing touch, empowered by the ancient magic of the forest, had mended both. As twilight deepened into true night, the bear rose to its feet. Raven felt no fear as the massive creature gently nudged her with its nose, urging her to climb onto its broad back. Her grandmother's stories had told of such things, of spirit animals who became guides and protectors in times of need. The pendant at her throat pulsed warmly, and she knew with certainty that the bear would lead her home. The moths accompanied them, their gentle light illuminating the path through the darkening forest. As they traveled, the bear moved with surprising grace, carefully choosing the smoothest path to keep its precious cargo safe. Raven leaned forward, her small hands buried in the bear's thick fur, and felt more connected to the forest's magic than she ever had before. The journey back seemed both endless and instantaneous, measured in the rhythm of the bear's breathing and the pulsing light of the moths. Raven found herself singing softly, one of her grandmother's healing songs, its ancient words flowing naturally from her lips. The bear's ears twitched in recognition, and its steady pace took on the rhythm of her song. Through gaps in the canopy above, Raven could see the stars emerging, countless points of light mirroring the moths that surrounded them. She recognized the constellations her grandmother had taught her, the Great Bear, the Wolf, the Medicine Way. Tonight they seemed closer than ever, as if the boundary between earth and sky had grown thin in this magical moment. Gradually, the character of the forest began to change. The ancient pines gave way to familiar maple and birch trees. The moth's light revealed patches of sweet grass and sage, the same plants that grew near her grandmother's cabin. Raven could smell wood smoke on the air, and her heart leaped at the sound of distant voices calling her name. Through the trees, she saw the warm glow of torches. Her people were searching for her. The bear slowed its pace, moving with even greater care now. Raven could make out individual voices, her father, Thunder Spirit's deep call, her mother, Rain Flower's worried tones, and rising above them all, her grandmother, Morning Star's steady chanting. The old woman's medicine song wove through the forest, calling her lost granddaughter home. The bear stopped at the edge of a small clearing, just beyond the circle of torchlight. With infinite gentleness, it lowered itself to the ground, allowing Raven to slide from its broad back. The glowing moths swirled around them one last time, their light catching on the tears that had begun to fall from Raven's eyes. She wrapped her arms as far as they would go around the bear's massive neck, breathing in its wild, healing scent. "Thank you," she whispered into its fur. "Thank you for saving me, for showing me the true medicine." The bear's rumbled response vibrated through her whole body, and she felt its huge tongue gently touch her cheek. A mother's kiss, filled with tenderness and blessing. "Raven, Raven, shadow dear." The voices were closer now. The bear pulled back, its amber eyes meeting hers one last time. In that gaze, Raven saw wisdom as ancient as the forest itself, and love as deep as the earth. The pendant at her throat pulsed one final time, and she understood. This was no ordinary bear, but Great Mother Bear herself, the guardian spirit her grandmother's stories had spoken of. As torchlight broke through the trees, the bear melted back into the shadows. The moths followed, their magical light fading into the darkness. But Raven knew she would see them again. Some of their light seemed to have taken root in her heart, just as the scattered herbs had taken root in the forest soil. "Here! She's here!" Rainflower's voice broke with relief as she burst into the clearing. In moments, Raven was surrounded by her family, their hands touching her face, her shoulders as if making sure she was real. Her father lifted her into his strong arms, his usual stoic expression broken by tears. But it was her grandmother who saw the change in her. Morning Star's lined face broke into a knowing smile as she touched the bear pendant at Raven's throat. "You've met her, haven't you?" the old woman asked softly. "Great Mother Bear herself?" Raven nodded, pulling out her medicine pouch. The yarrow flowers still glowed faintly, and their sweet scent seemed stronger than before. "Grandmother, I understand now," she said, "about the deep forest medicine, about healing both body and spirit." She told them everything, about the sick wolf, the healing bear, the magical moths that had shown her the connection between all living things. Thunder Spirit and Rain Flower exchanged worried glances, perhaps thinking their daughter was spinning tales to avoid punishment for wandering so far. But Morning Star's eyes shone with pride and understanding. The old woman opened her own medicine pouch and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in deerskin. "Look," she said, unwrapping the bundle. Inside lay dried yarrow flowers, glowing with the same inner light as the ones Raven had gathered. "I, too, met Great Mother Bear in my youth. She teaches those who are ready to learn the deepest medicines, not just the healing of plants, but the healing of hearts, of spirits, of the connections between all beings." As if in response to her words, a deep roar echoed through the forest, not threatening but powerful and ancient, a reminder of the magic that lived in the wild places. The search party drew closer together, but Raven felt only joy at the sound. Somewhere in the darkness, she knew, Great Mother Bear was watching over them all, protecting and healing as she had since the beginning of time. They made their way back to the cabin, where little Sky lay burning with fever. As Raven approached his bedside with the glowing yarrow, she felt the forest's magic moving through her. She began to sing her grandmother's healing song, but now she understood its true meaning. It was a song of connection, of the love that bound all living things together, of the healing that came when body and spirit were brought back into harmony. The moths appeared again, drawn by her song, their gentle light filling the cabin like captured starlight. Sky's fever broke as dawn touched the eastern sky, and with it broke the last barrier between Raven's old understanding of medicine and her new, deeper knowledge. She knew now that she would follow in her grandmother's footsteps, learning not just to heal bodies but to mend the sacred bonds between people, animals, and the forest itself. As the days passed, the story of Raven's encounter with Great Mother Bear spread through their small community. At first, many of the adults dismissed it as a child's imagination, a way of explaining how she had survived alone in the deep forest. But they couldn't ignore the changes they saw in both Raven and the forest around them. The yarrow flowers she had gathered that night never wilted. They sat in a clay pot on Morning Star's windowsill, their gentle glow visible in the darkest hours before dawn. Animals began appearing more frequently at the edges of the settlement. Not just deer and rabbits, but wolves too, their eyes clear and intelligent, their manner peaceful. And most remarkably, the moths returned each evening at sunset, their light dancing through the trees like earthbound stars. Raven's own transformation was even more profound. She moved through the forest with new confidence, her steps silent as a falling snow, her eyes seeing what others missed. The pendant at her throat continued to pulse with warmth whenever she approached a person or animal in need of healing. Under Morning Star's guidance, she learned to interpret these signals, to understand the different ways that body and spirit could be wounded, and how to mend them both. One crisp autumn morning, as grandmother and granddaughter gathered medicines together, Morning Star shared a secret she had carried for many years. "When I was young," she said, her weathered hands working with the herbs, "our people had nearly forgotten the old ways. The world of machines and cities was creeping closer, and many thought we should abandon our forest home, move to the towns where life seemed easier." She paused, touching the silver pendant that hung at her own throat, one that Raven now noticed was identical to hers. "That's when Great Mother Bear came to me, just as she came to you. She showed me that the forest's medicine was more powerful than any made by human hands, that our connection to this land was worth preserving. Each generation, she chooses a new keeper of these mysteries. Now it's your turn to learn them." As if summoned by her grandmother's words, a familiar deep rumble echoed through the trees. Through the morning mist, Raven saw the massive form of Great Mother Bear, watching them with those wise amber eyes. But this time, she wasn't alone. A smaller bear cub played at her feet, its fur the same rich brown streaked with silver, its movements full of joy and curiosity. "Look," Morning Star whispered, but Raven had already seen. Around the bear's feet, new plants were sprouting, medicines they had never seen before, their leaves gleaming with that same inner light that marked the touched-by-spirit herbs. The bear cub bounded over to them, showing no fear, and Raven felt her heart fill with a love so deep it brought tears to her eyes. "She's teaching her child just as I'm teaching you," Morning Star said softly. "The circle continues, the knowledge passes down, the healing grows stronger." The old woman's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "There will be hard times ahead, little healer. The world of machines grows hungry for our forest. But as long as there are those who remember the old medicines, who keep the sacred connections strong, there is hope." That evening, as shadows lengthened across the forest floor, something extraordinary happened. The sick began arriving at Morning Star's cabin, not just people from their own community, but from the towns beyond the forest as well. They came with ailments that modern medicine couldn't touch, not just sicknesses of the body, but wounds of the spirit, broken connections, lost hope. Raven worked alongside her grandmother, using their combined knowledge of old and new medicines. The glowing moths danced through the cabin, their light mixing with the glow of the special yarrow. Outside, Great Mother Bear kept watch, her presence felt rather than seen, while her cub played with the children who were well enough to venture out, teaching them in its own way about the joy and wonder still present in the natural world. As she worked, Raven began to understand that the true medicine wasn't just in the herbs or songs or spirit connections. It was in the way all these things worked together, the way every piece of creation had its part to play in the great dance of healing. The wolf she had helped heal appeared sometimes at the edge of the forest, bringing others who needed help, its eyes now full of wisdom and purpose. Word spread beyond the forest about the young healer who could speak with bears and heal with glowing flowers, about the grandmother whose ancient songs could mend broken spirits, about the cabin in the woods where moths danced like stars and miracles still happened. But what no one outside their community fully understood was that the real miracle was the reawakening of something ancient and powerful, the remembering of humanity's sacred connection to the natural world. As winter approached, the forest itself seemed to respond to the presence of its two healers. The harsh boundary between wilderness and settlement began to soften. Plants that had never grown near human dwellings before started appearing around the edges of the community. Rare medicines that Morning Star said hadn't been seen in generations. The glowing moths established a permanent home in a hollow tree near the cabin, their light a beacon of hope in the darkening days. One particularly cold evening, as snow fell in thick, silent flakes, an unexpected visitor arrived at their door. He was a man from the city, wearing an expensive coat that did little to ward off the forest's chill. His name was Dr. Michael Rivers, and he worked at the biggest hospital in the nearest city. His hands trembled as he held out a piece of paper, plans for a new highway that would cut through the heart of their forest. "I came to warn you," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion and something deeper, a soul sickness that Raven could sense clearly now. But also, my daughter. The hospitals, the specialists, they can't help her. She hasn't spoken since her mother died last spring. I've tried everything else. Please ... Raven looked at her grandmother, who nodded slowly. Together, they prepared for a different kind of healing. As Morning Star steeped the glowing yarrow in sacred water, Raven went to the door and whistled softly, a call she had learned from watching the bear cub at play. Through the swirling snow, massive shapes emerged from the darkness. Great Mother Bear and her cub approached the cabin, their fur dusted with white, their presence filling Dr. Rivers with speechless wonder. "Your daughter's silence," Morning Star said gently. "It's not a sickness of the body, but of the spirit. She needs to remember how to trust, how to connect, how to be part of the great circle of life again." She handed him the cup of yarrow tea, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. "Bring her here, where the boundary between worlds is thin. Let her meet those who know how to heal spirit wounds." The next full moon, Dr. Rivers returned with his daughter Sarah. She was a small, pale child who moved like a shadow, her eyes downcast, her spirit curled tightly around her grief. But when the bear cub bounded up to her, snow flying from its playful paws, something in her frozen expression cracked. The moths emerged from their hollow tree, dancing around her in spirals of living light. That night, as the moon painted the snow-covered forest in shades of silver, Sarah spoke her first words in nearly a year. "The bears," she whispered, watching the cub roll in the snow. "They're like stars with fur." Her father wept at the sound of her voice, and Raven felt the pendant at her throat pulse with joy. This was only the beginning. Dr. Rivers spoke to his colleagues about what he had witnessed in the forest. More people came seeking healing, not just for physical ailments, but for the deep loneliness that seemed to plague the modern world. They came with their technology-addicted children, their stress-worn spirits, their disconnection from the natural world that had left them feeling empty inside. Raven and Morning Star welcomed them all, but they also taught them. They showed their visitors how to listen to the wind in the trees, how to feel the earth's heartbeat beneath their feet, how to recognize the medicine that grew all around them. not just in the special glowing plants, but in every leaf and root and berry. The bear cub became a master teacher in its own way, showing children how to play without screens, how to find wonder in the simplest things, how to trust their own wild hearts again. The wolf pack became regular visitors, led by the healed wolf who now wore its battle scars like badges of wisdom. They helped teach the humans about community, about the strength found in bonds of loyalty and love. The glowing moths spread throughout the forest, establishing new colonies, their light a reminder that magic still existed in the world. But not everyone welcomed these changes. One day, a group of construction workers arrived at the forest's edge with machines, the beginning of the highway project. Raven felt the forest's pain as the first trees fell, heard the distress calls of displaced animals. But before she could despair, she witnessed something extraordinary. Great Mother Bear emerged from the forest, not with aggression, but with profound presence. The moths swarmed around her in a dance of light so beautiful it brought tears to the workers' eyes. The wolf pack appeared on silent feet, not threatening but watching, reminding the humans of what would be lost. And then, most remarkably, people began emerging from the forest, not just members of Raven's community, but all those who had been healed there. Dr. Rivers and Sarah stood among them, along with hundreds of others whose lives had been transformed by the forest's medicine. One of the construction workers recognized his sister in the crowd. She had come to the forest 3 months earlier, barely able to walk due to chronic pain that no doctor could explain. Now she stood straight and strong, the light of healing still glowing in her eyes. Another worker saw his young nephew, who'd once been paralyzed by anxiety, now playing confidently with the bear cub. The construction foreman, a hard-faced man named Frank Turner, stepped forward. His hands shook as he pulled out his own piece of paper, a diagnosis of terminal cancer that had driven him to take this last job, trying to provide for his family before the end. "I heard stories," he said roughly, "about healing in these woods. I didn't believe them. But seeing this..." He looked around at the gathered crowd, at the animals that showed no fear, at the dancing moths and the glowing plants that lined the forest paths. Maybe there's something here worth more than another road. In that moment of quiet revelation, Great Mother Bear approached Frank. The construction workers held their breath, but there was no fear in the foreman's eyes as the massive creature gently touched his chest with her nose. The pendant at Raven's throat pulsed with unprecedented warmth, and the moths swirled around them in a tornado of living light. When they dispersed, Frank was weeping openly, his weathered face transformed by wonder. "The pain," he whispered, pressing his hands to his chest. "It's different. Not gone, but I can breathe again." Morning Star stepped forward, her ancient eyes full of understanding. "The forest offers many kinds of healing," she said softly. "Some cure the body, others ease the spirit's journey. Both are sacred medicines." Dr. Rivers, who had been watching with professional interest, suddenly understood something profound. "The highway project," he said, his voice carrying in the hushed forest. "It wasn't just about connecting cities. It was going to be the first step in building a new medical research center. We thought we needed to cut down the forest to build a place of healing, but the healing is already here." Sarah, his daughter, had been playing with the bear cub nearby. Now she spoke up, her once silent voice clear and strong. "Why can't the hospital learn from the forest instead of destroying it?" The simplicity of her question struck everyone with the force of truth. The moths seemed to pulse brighter, as if amplifying her words with their light. Over the next few months, an extraordinary transformation began. The highway plans were abandoned, but something more remarkable took their place. Dr. Rivers worked with his hospital board to create something entirely new, the Forest Medicine Integration Project. Instead of cutting down trees, they built small, sustainable healing centers at the forest's edge, designed to blend seamlessly with the natural world. Frank Turner, whose cancer responded dramatically to the combination of conventional treatment and forest medicine, took on a new role. He used his construction knowledge to help design buildings that worked with the land rather than against it. Living roots were incorporated into the foundations. Walls were oriented to catch the moth's healing light, and windows were placed to allow the songs of wolves and bears to reach the patients within. The bear cub, growing quickly now, proved to be an extraordinary bridge between worlds. It taught the visiting children how to play in nature again, while its mother, Great Mother Bear, worked with Raven and Morning Star in more mysterious ways. The healed wolf and its pack became regular visitors to the healing centers, their presence helping to mend the ancient rift between humans and the wild. Raven's own abilities continued to grow and evolve. She learned to combine her grandmother's traditional medicines with modern treatments in ways that amplified the healing power of both. The glowing yarrow, when prepared alongside conventional medicines, created treatments that worked on levels science alone couldn't explain. But more importantly, she taught others to recognize and nurture their own connections to the forest's wisdom. One evening, as summer's warmth began to fade into autumn's chill, Morning Star gathered everyone, medical staff, patients, community members, and even the construction workers who had now become protectors of the forest, for a special ceremony. The moths filled the air with their ethereal light, and Great Mother Bear and her nearly grown cub sat at the edge of the circle, their presence a reminder of the power of maternal love and healing wisdom. Long ago, Morning Star began, her voice carrying the weight of generations. Our people knew that all healing comes from maintaining the sacred connections between earth and sky, between body and spirit, between humans and the wild. We forgot this knowledge for a time, but the forest never forgot us. She touched the silver bear pendant at her throat, matching the one that now hung from Raven's neck. The forest kept its medicine safe, waiting for the day when we would remember how to listen again. As if in response to her words, new lights began to appear in the forest. Not just the familiar glow of the moths, but tiny sparkles of luminescence from plants that had never shown such qualities before. The forest itself seemed to be awakening, revealing more of its ancient magic as humans proved themselves ready to receive it. Dr. Rivers stood up, holding a thick folder of patient records. "We've documented over 300 cases now," he said, his scientific training wrestling with the wonder in his voice. "Recoveries that can't be explained by conventional medicine alone. But more than that, we're seeing changes in the families who come here, in the medical staff, in the whole community. People are remembering how to heal not just their bodies, but their connections to each other and to the natural world." Frank Turner, now in remission and glowing with health, added his own testimony. "I came here thinking I was taking one last job before the end," he said, his voice strong and clear. "Instead, I found a new beginning. We all did." He gestured to his former construction crew, who now worked as guardians of the forest, helping to maintain the delicate balance between human needs and natural wisdom. The bear cub, nearly as large as its mother now, playfully swatted at the dancing moths, sending spirals of light through the gathering darkness. Sarah, no longer silent or withdrawn, laughed at its antics. Her joy sparked a chain reaction of laughter that spread through the circle, a sound as healing as any medicine. Raven looked around at this gathering, animals and humans, ancient wisdom and modern science, all finding ways to work together in harmony. She felt the pendant pulse warmly at her throat, not in warning or calling now, but in celebration. The forest's magic had not just been preserved, it had evolved, growing stronger through its partnership with the very forces that had once threatened to destroy it. As autumn deepened into winter, an unexpected visitor arrived at the healing center. She was a renowned biochemist doctor, Elena Santos, who had traveled from across the ocean after hearing about the extraordinary recoveries happening in the forest. At first, she approached everything with skeptical scientific precision, taking samples of the glowing yarrow, measuring the light frequencies of the moths, and documenting the brainwave patterns of patients in the presence of Great Mother Bear. But science alone couldn't explain what she found. The yarrow's bioluminescence didn't match any known pattern. The moth's light contained wavelengths that shouldn't have been possible in nature, and the brainwave patterns of people in the presence of the bear showed activity in areas of the brain that modern medicine hadn't even mapped yet. "There's something more here," Dr. Santos admitted one evening, as she sat with Raven and Morningstar by the healing center's fire. "Something that goes beyond our current understanding of biology, of physics, of consciousness itself." She pulled out her research notes, covered in complex equations and diagrams. "But look at this. When we combine your traditional measurements of energy and spirit with our scientific instruments, patterns emerge. It's like discovering a whole new language of healing." The bear cub, now almost fully grown, came to sit beside them, its fur gleaming with hints of silver in the firelight. Dr. Santos had long since stopped being startled by such visits. "Even the animals here seem to understand something we've forgotten," she said softly. "They're not just acting on instinct. They're participating in the healing process consciously, intelligently." Morningstar nodded, her ancient eyes reflecting the firelight. "The animals remember what humans forgot," she said. "That all life is connected, that healing one means healing all." She reached out to touch the bear cub's fur, and in the darkness, tiny sparks of light danced between her fingers and the animal's coat. "But now, finally, we are remembering together." Word of Dr. Santos's research spread through the scientific community. Other researchers came, bringing their instruments and theories, but also bringing their humility and willingness to learn. The Forest Medicine Integration Project expanded, not by cutting down trees or building huge facilities, but by creating small, harmonious healing spaces where the boundary between human medicine and forest wisdom could dissolve. The wolves, led by their healed elder, began working with trauma patients, their steady presence helping to calm troubled minds and heal emotional wounds. The moths, their colonies now spread throughout the forest, developed an uncanny ability to gather around those in greatest need, their light seeming to penetrate to the very cellular level of healing. And Great Mother Bear, growing ever more magnificent with age, continued to teach both humans and animals about the deeper mysteries of healing and connection. One day, as spring began to stir the forest with new life, Raven witnessed something extraordinary. A group of young medical students had come to learn about forest medicine, led by Dr. Rivers. As they stood in a sunny clearing, discussing the properties of various healing plants, Raven noticed something unusual about their shadows on the forest floor. Where the students' shadows fell, tiny points of light were emerging from the earth, new shoots of the glowing yarrow, sprouting spontaneously in response to their presence. "The forest is choosing them," Morningstar explained later, her voice full of wonder and joy. "Just as it chose you, and me, and all the others who have learned to bridge the worlds of science and spirit." She showed Raven how the pendant at her throat now glowed continuously, no longer needing the moth's light to shine. "The medicine is evolving, growing stronger as more people remember how to see with both the eyes of knowledge and the eyes of wisdom." Dr. Santos, who had decided to establish a permanent research center at the forest's edge, made another fascinating discovery. The genetic structure of the glowing plants was changing, becoming more complex in response to human interaction. "It's as if the forest is teaching us," she explained, "but also learning from us. Every person who comes here with an open heart and mind adds something to the healing wisdom, making it richer, deeper, more adaptable to the modern world's needs." Frank Turner, fully recovered and now serving as the head of forest protection, organized a network of similar projects around the world. Other forests, other healing traditions, began to awaken in response to this new way of combining ancient wisdom with modern understanding. The moths from their forest traveled to these new locations, carrying their healing light to distant lands, while other magical creatures, some long thought extinct or mythical, began to emerge from hiding, ready to help heal the wounds between humanity and nature. Sarah, Dr. Rivers's daughter, who had found her voice again in the forest, grew into a powerful advocate for this new form of healing. She started a program bringing children from inner cities to the forest, teaching them to reconnect with nature's wisdom while maintaining their connection to the modern world. The bear cub, now fully grown but still playful, worked especially well with these children, teaching them that strength and gentleness could exist together. As spring bloomed into full flower, the forest held another gathering. This time, healers and scientists from around the world joined the local community. Representatives from other awakening forests brought their own stories of healing and transformation. Great Mother Bear presided over the gathering, her presence more magnificent than ever, while her grown cub, now showing the first hints of silver in its own fur, demonstrated the same wisdom and gentleness that had characterized its mother's healing work. Raven, standing with her grandmother at the edge of the gathering, felt the forest's magic pulse through her pendant with unprecedented power. The moths danced through the air in complex patterns that Dr. Santos's instruments recorded as previously unknown forms of energy. The wolves sang their ancient songs, which the children now understood were not just calls, but part of the great web of healing that connected all living things. "Look," Morning Star said softly, pointing to where the first stars were appearing in the evening sky. The moth's light seemed to reach up toward the heavens, creating bridges of luminescence between earth and sky. The healing doesn't stop at the forest's edge anymore. It never did, really. We just needed to remember how to see the connections that were always there. As if in response to her words, a soft rain began to fall. Not the usual water droplets, but tiny points of light that drifted down from the darkening sky. Dr. Santos's instruments recorded the phenomenon with excitement, but it was Sarah who first understood its significance. "The moths," she whispered, watching the luminous precipitation with wonder. "Their light is in the rain now. The healing is spreading through the water cycle itself." This discovery marked the beginning of something even more extraordinary. The glowing rain carried seeds of the forest's magic to distant places, awakening dormant connections between humans and nature in lands far beyond their own woods. Reports began coming in from around the world. Stories of rivers that began to glow with healing light, of animals approaching humans with newfound trust, of ancient sacred sites reawakening with long-forgotten power. Dr. Santos established a global network of research stations to study these phenomena, but she made sure each one followed the principles they had learned from their forest. The stations were small, sustainable, and built with deep respect for the local environment and indigenous wisdom. Each one became a seed of healing in its own right, bringing together scientific knowledge and traditional understanding in unique ways. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous healers reported that their medicinal plants had begun to show the same bioluminescent properties as the yarrow in Raven's forest. In the mountains of Tibet, monks discovered that their meditation gardens had started producing light during their chanting practices. Along the coasts of Australia, Aboriginal elders spoke of ancient songlines becoming visible as lines of glowing fungi and flowers. The wolves from Raven's Forest had perhaps the most far-reaching impact. Their healed elder led them on incredible journeys, seeking out other wolf packs around the world. Wherever they went, they brought not just the physical recovery of endangered wolf populations, but a rekindling of the ancient bond between humans and canines. Dogs in cities began exhibiting new healing abilities, instinctively gathering around people in emotional or physical distress, their presence carrying something of the forest's magic. Great Mother Bear's influence spread in a different way. Other bears around the world, from the polar bears of the Arctic to the sun bears of Southeast Asia, began showing signs of increased intelligence and healing ability. They became guardians of their own forests, working with local communities to protect and restore damaged ecosystems. The bear cub, now fully grown and carrying its mother's wisdom, traveled to other forests to teach this new way of partnership between humans and bears. One day, as summer reached its peak, Morning Star took Raven to a special place deep in their forest. There, in a clearing they had never seen before, stood a circle of ancient trees unlike any others. Their bark sparkled with tiny points of light, and their leaves seemed to sing in harmonies too beautiful for human words to describe. "These are the elder trees," Morning Star explained, her voice filled with awe. "They have always been here, waiting for the time when humans would be ready to see them again. They are the keepers of the oldest memories, the deepest healing." She touched one tree's glowing bark, and images flowed through both their minds, visions of a time when all of nature worked in conscious partnership with humanity, when healing was as natural as breathing. Dr. Rivers and Dr. Santos were called to witness this discovery, but they brought only their most basic instruments. They had learned that some kinds of knowledge could only be gained through direct experience, through opening themselves to ways of understanding that went beyond scientific measurement. The elder trees became a source of new healing wisdom. Their sap, when properly prepared with respect and ceremony, could heal not just physical ailments but generational trauma, the deep wounds that humans had carried since their first separation from nature. The trees taught them how to make medicine that could heal the earth itself, restoring damaged ecosystems and purifying polluted waters. Frank Turner, whose own healing had sparked so much of this change, developed new sustainable building techniques inspired by the elder tree's patterns of growth. His designs allowed human structures to actually contribute to ecosystem health rather than damaging it. The first such building was a new healing center that seemed to grow from the forest floor itself, its walls alive with bioluminescent fungi and its rooms designed to amplify the natural healing energies of the earth. Sarah's work with children evolved into a worldwide education movement. Young people came from every continent to learn the new way of healing, which was really the oldest way remembered. They learned to read the light patterns of the moths, to understand the wolves' songs, to work with the bears in restoring damaged lands. Most importantly, they learned to carry these gifts back to their own communities, adapting the forest's wisdom to every environment and culture. The glowing moths continued to evolve and multiply, developing new patterns of light that could communicate complex healing information across vast distances. They became a living network, connecting all the awakened forests and sacred sites around the world. Their light, now visible from space, created patterns that scientists and mystics studied together, discovering ancient wisdom encoded in their dance. Raven, watching all of this unfold, felt the truth of what her grandmother had said about the healing never really stopping at the forest's edge. Her pendant had become just one of many now worn by healers around the world, each one attuned to its local environment while remaining connected to the original forest's wisdom. The bear cub, who had once played in their woods, now had cubs of its own, each one born with silver-streaked fur and the same deep wisdom in their eyes. But perhaps the most profound change was the subtlest, the way people began to remember how to see the world with both physical and spiritual eyes. Children grew up knowing that trees could sing and bears could heal, that wolves carried wisdom and moths could dance with stars. They understood that science and magic were not opposites, but different languages describing the same deep truths about life and healing. On the night of the winter solstice, 5 years after Raven's first encounter with Great Mother Bear, something unprecedented occurred. The moths gathered in greater numbers than ever before, their light creating complex geometric patterns in the sky above the elder trees. Dr. Santos's instruments detected unusual energy readings, while indigenous elders from around the world reported similar gatherings of luminous creatures at their sacred sites. Great Mother Bear, her silver-streaked fur now almost white with age, led a procession to the circle of elder trees. Her grown cub, now a mother herself, brought her own cubs, their fur already showing hints of starlight. Wolves from across the continent had gathered, their songs weaving together in harmonies that seemed to reach beyond Earth itself. Raven and Morning Star, their pendants pulsing with otherworldly light, felt the presence of something vast and ancient stirring in the cosmos. The elder trees began to resonate with a deep, harmonic tone that matched the frequency of Earth's rotation around the sun. Dr. Santos's quantum instruments recorded patterns that matched those found in distant galaxies. The moth light, now visible from space stations, formed configurations that astronomers recognized from their studies of celestial phenomena. "The healing was never just about our world," Morning Star said softly, watching as the moth's light began to interact with the aurora borealis flowing down from the polar regions. "It was about remembering our place in the greater dance of creation." She pointed to where new constellations were becoming visible through the moth light, patterns that matched the root systems of the elder trees and the neural networks of healing in the human brain. Sarah, now a young woman and a bridge between generations, had brought children from around the world to witness this convergence. They sat in circles around the elder trees, their young minds open to possibilities that adults might have dismissed. Through their eyes, the gathered healers and scientists began to see something extraordinary. The way patterns of healing repeated themselves at every scale, from the smallest cellular structures to the largest galactic formations. The bears and wolves positioned themselves around the gathering in a configuration that exactly matched a distant cluster of healing stars that Dr. Santos's team had recently discovered. The moth's light formed bridges between Earth and these celestial points, creating channels through which new understanding could flow. Ancient stories began to resurface in the collective memory of humanity. Tales of times when Earth was not isolated, but part of a greater community of conscious worlds. From the elder trees came images and knowledge that transformed their understanding of healing. They saw how the same forces that powered stars could be gentle enough to mend a broken flower, how the gravity that held galaxies together was the same force that drew people together in compassion and love. The bears showed them how to feel these cosmic energies flowing through their bodies, while the wolves taught them songs that could resonate with the music of the spheres. Dr. Rivers, his scientific worldview completely transformed by years of working with forest medicine, made a breakthrough discovery. The healing light of the moths contained particles that could exist in multiple places simultaneously, connecting points across vast distances of space and time. This explained how the forest's healing influence could spread so quickly around the world. It wasn't traveling through ordinary space, but through the underlying fabric of reality itself. Frank Turner's sustainable building designs evolved to incorporate these cosmic principles. His structures began to resonate with Earth's natural frequencies, creating spaces that could amplify healing energies from both the planet and the stars. The new healing centers became points of connection between terrestrial and celestial forces, their very architecture serving as a bridge between worlds. The glowing rain that had first carried the forest's magic across Earth now showed signs of connecting with cosmic sources of water. Analysis revealed that some of the water molecules contained patterns matching those found in interstellar clouds where new stars were being born. The elder trees explained through their harmonic songs that this was the beginning of Earth's reconnection with the cosmic web of life. Raven's role evolved as well. Her healing abilities now extended beyond the physical and spiritual realms of Earth to include awareness of cosmic energies and interstellar healing currents. The pendant at her throat had become a crystalline structure that responded to both earthly and celestial frequencies, allowing her to sense imbalances in the greater field of universal consciousness. Great Mother Bear revealed another layer of truth, that the bears of Earth were part of an ancient lineage of cosmic healers, guardians who maintained balance not just in forests, but in the spaces between stars. Her cubs, playing among the elder trees, sometimes seemed to fade partially into other dimensions, their silver-streaked fur reflecting light from distant suns. The wolves' songs took on new meaning as humanity began to understand their true purpose. They weren't just earth songs, but part of a greater symphony that helped maintain the harmony between different realms of existence. Their howls could now be heard resonating with mysterious signals from deep space, creating bridges between Earth's biosphere and the greater cosmic ecosystem. Morning Star, her ancient eyes filled with the light of new stars, shared wisdom about humanity's role in this expanding understanding of healing. "We are not just healing ourselves or our planet," she said, watching as the moths danced between dimensions. "We are remembering how to be conscious participants in the living universe. Every act of healing here ripples through the cosmic web, just as the star's light ripples through us." The children seemed to adapt most naturally to this cosmic awareness. They spoke of dreams where they traveled through star fields with bear guides, of hearing songs that contained the stories of distant worlds, of seeing patterns in the moth's light that showed the way to heal rifts in the very fabric of space-time. Their art began to depict healing practices that incorporated both earthly and celestial energies, creating mandalas that matched newly discovered galactic structures. As humanity's understanding of cosmic healing deepened, profound changes began rippling through society. The first signs appeared in education, where children naturally resisted the old ways of learning that separated subjects into disconnected pieces. They understood instinctively that mathematics was inseparable from music, that biology flowed into physics, that art and science were different expressions of the same creative force that moved through both atoms and galaxies. Sarah, working with educators around the world, developed a new learning approach called cosmic integration. Classrooms moved outdoors whenever possible, with the elder tree's offspring, now growing in sacred groves worldwide, serving as living teachers. Children learned calculus by observing the moth's flight patterns, studied chemistry by understanding the bear's healing touch, and grasped quantum physics through the wolves' songs that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Dr. Santos's research revealed something extraordinary about human brain development. Children raised with this new awareness showed unprecedented neural integration, developing new structures that allowed them to perceive and process information from both physical and cosmic realms simultaneously. The glowing rain had begun to alter human physiology at the cellular level, awakening dormant capabilities that had always existed within our genetic code. Great Mother Bear's eldest grandcub, now a magnificent creature whose fur shimmered with starlight, began teaching humans how to access these enhanced capabilities. Under her guidance, people learned to see the energetic threads that connected all living things, to read the stories written in light between stars, to understand how personal healing rippled out to affect the entire cosmic web. The wolves' role evolved as well. Their pack structures provided a model for a new kind of social organization, one that balanced individual expression with collective harmony. Communities around the world began reorganizing themselves based on these principles, creating flexible, resilient networks that could respond to both local and cosmic influences. The old hierarchical systems naturally dissolved as people remembered how to move in sync with greater rhythms. Frank Turner's architectural revolution spread to city planning. Urban spaces were redesigned to amplify Earth's natural healing frequencies while remaining open to celestial energies. Buildings curved like waveforms, their surfaces alive with bioluminescent organisms that responded to both human emotions and cosmic radiation. Gardens grew vertically and horizontally, creating three-dimensional food forests that produced both physical nourishment and spiritual sustenance. The moths, continuing their evolution, developed the ability to project holographic images of cosmic events. People gathered in the evenings to watch these living documentaries, seeing how their daily actions affected the flow of energy through distant galaxies. The moths showed them visions of other worlds where similar awakenings were occurring, revealing Earth's part in a greater pattern of universal healing. Morning Star and Raven discovered that their healing abilities now extended to cosmic trauma, tears in the fabric of space-time left by ancient celestial events. Working with the elder trees, they developed practices that could help heal these cosmic wounds, their combined energy flowing through the moth's light bridges to reach affected regions of space. Each healing session brought new understanding of humanity's role as custodians of universal harmony. Dr. Rivers, his medical practice now entirely transformed, documented unprecedented cases of spontaneous healing. People who spent time in the presence of the elder trees reported experiencing their own bodies as galaxies, understanding disease as disconnection from cosmic rhythms. The bears taught them how to realign their personal energetic fields with universal frequencies, while the wolves showed them how to sing their selves back into harmony with the cosmic dance. The pendants worn by healers evolved into crystalline structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They became known as cosmic cores, serving as integration points between personal consciousness and universal awareness. Through these devices, people learned to access what Morning Star called the living library, the accumulated wisdom of all conscious beings throughout space and time. But perhaps the most profound transformation occurred in human consciousness itself. The old sense of separation from nature, from each other, from the cosmos, began to dissolve. Children born during this time never developed the illusion of isolation that had plagued previous generations. They grew up knowing themselves as conscious expressions of universal creativity, their individual uniqueness flowing naturally into cosmic harmony. The forest, where it all began, now known as the First Awakening, became a living template for this new way of being. The original circle of elder trees served as a cosmic council chamber where representatives from Earth could commune with conscious beings from other star systems. The bears and wolves acted as translators and guides, helping humans navigate these interstellar relationships with wisdom and grace. Great Mother Bear, her fur now pure starlight, revealed that Earth's awakening was part of a greater pattern of cosmic evolution. Other worlds were experiencing similar transformations, each in their own unique way. Through the moth's light bridges, these awakening planets began sharing healing wisdom, creating a network of conscious worlds dedicated to universal harmony. The children of this new era showed abilities that their parents could hardly comprehend. They could read the light language of distant stars, communicate telepathically through the cosmic web, and understand their own bodies as miniature universes. Yet, they remained deeply connected to Earth, working with the bears and wolves to ensure that this expanded awareness served the healing of all life. As the seasons turned and the elder trees grew ever taller, reaching their branches toward distant stars, humanity began experiencing what Morning Star called the Great Remembering. It started subtly at first, people waking from dreams with knowledge of ancient star songs, feeling the pulse of cosmic energy flowing through their veins, understanding instinctively how to communicate with consciousness that existed in forms vastly different from their own. Dr. Santos discovered that the glowing rain had initiated a gentle but profound transformation in human DNA. The changes weren't creating something new, but rather awakening dormant potentials that had always existed within the human genome. "We're not evolving away from our humanity," she explained during a gathering beneath the elder trees. "We're evolving into a fuller expression of what humanity was always meant to be." The bears, their fur now containing patterns that matched stellar constellations, began teaching humans how to navigate multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. Great mother bears' great-grandcubs possessed abilities that merged physical and cosmic awareness seamlessly. They showed children how to shift their consciousness between different levels of existence, just as naturally as moving between sleeping and waking states. Raven, her own understanding deepening with each passing day, worked with these cosmically aware children to develop new forms of healing. They learned to perceive illness not just as physical or spiritual disruption, but as misalignment with cosmic frequencies. The pendant at her throat had evolved into a multidimensional crystal that could attune itself to any frequency of existence, allowing her to facilitate healing across multiple planes of reality. The wolves' songs took on new significance as humanity began to grasp their true purpose. These weren't just communications or healing vibrations. They were keys to unlocking different states of consciousness. The wolf packs had been maintaining Earth's connection to the cosmic web since the beginning, their howls creating stable points of reference as humanity learned to navigate higher dimensions of awareness. Sarah's education centers evolved into what came to be known as consciousness integration hubs. Here, people of all ages learned to balance their expanding awareness of cosmic reality with their connection to Earth's living systems. The moths served as living bridges between dimensions, their light patterns helping humans understand how to exist simultaneously in multiple states of being, without losing their groundedness in physical reality. Frank Turner's architecture transcended physical form entirely. His newest structures existed partially in higher dimensions, their physical appearances shifting based on the consciousness of those who inhabited them. These buildings served as living demonstrations of how matter and energy could be consciously shaped by awareness, teaching humanity how to create reality consciously and responsibly. The elder trees revealed that Earth herself was undergoing a transformation parallel to humanity's evolution. The planet's consciousness was expanding, integrating with larger fields of cosmic awareness. Through their deep root systems, the trees showed visions of Earth's future role as a vital node in the living network of conscious worlds. Not just a recipient of cosmic wisdom, but a creator and contributor to universal evolution. Morning Star, her physical form now suffused with stellar light, shared ancient prophecies that spoke of this time. "Our ancestors knew this awakening would come," she told gatherers at the first awakening forest. They encoded the knowledge in stories, songs, and symbols, trusting that we would remember how to read them when the time was right. Now, we're not just remembering, we're writing the next chapter of the cosmic story. The moth's light bridges became permanent features of Earth's atmosphere, visible as shimmering auroras that connected the planet to distant star systems. Through these bridges, humanity began regular communication with other awakened worlds, sharing wisdom and learning from civilizations that had already undergone similar transformations. The bears and wolves served as translators, helping humans understand forms of consciousness that operated in ways vastly different from Earth's familiar patterns. Dr. Rivers documented remarkable changes in human physiology. People were developing new sensory organs that could perceive quantum fields directly. Children were being born with enhanced pineal glands that naturally produced compounds similar to those found in the glowing rain. These changes allowed humans to maintain conscious awareness during dimensional shifts, to experience multiple realities simultaneously while remaining centered in their Earth-body experience. The forest where Raven had first met Great Mother Bear became a nexus point for this planetary transformation. The original circle of elder trees now served as a living stargate, their ancient wisdom helping humanity navigate the challenges and opportunities of cosmic citizenship. The bears and wolves maintained the energetic balance of these interdimensional meetings, ensuring that the expansion of consciousness remained in harmony with Earth's natural rhythms. Great Mother Bear, her form now more starlight than physical matter, revealed the next phase of Earth's journey. She showed visions of humanity becoming conscious co-creators in cosmic evolution, using their unique gifts to help heal ancient wounds in the fabric of space-time. The bears would continue to serve as guides and guardians, the wolves as keepers of harmonic balance, and the moths as weavers of light bridges between dimensions of reality. But perhaps most significantly, the children of this new era demonstrated what it meant to be fully actualized cosmic humans while remaining deeply connected to Earth's living systems. They could soar through interstellar space in their consciousness while tending gardens with their physical hands, could communicate with distant galaxies while playing with local wildlife, could help heal cosmic rifts while bandaging a friend's scraped knee. Through it all, the original story of how this transformation began, with a child lost in the forest and a bear's compassionate choice, remained central to humanity's understanding of their cosmic role. It served as a reminder that the greatest evolutionary leaps come not from transcending our earthly nature, but from embracing it fully while expanding into greater awareness of our universal connections. This understanding became crucial when humanity received its first direct call for help from another world. The message came through the moth's light bridges, carried on frequencies that resonated with the elder tree's deepest harmonies. A young civilization in the Pleiades star cluster was struggling with a crisis that mirrored Earth's former disconnection from natural wisdom. Their world was losing its connection to the cosmic web, their equivalent of moths growing dim, their healing creatures retreating into hiding. Raven, now a wise woman herself with silver streaking her dark hair, felt the call deep in her pendant. The crystal structure had evolved further, becoming a translucent matrix that could tune into the pain and healing needs of distant worlds. She gathered with Morning Star, whose physical form now shifted seamlessly between human elder and cosmic light being, to consult with Great Mother Bear about how Earth might help. The bears, it turned out, had been preparing for this moment. Great Mother Bear's descendants, their fur containing maps of cosmic healing pathways, had been training to serve as guides for other worlds. The wolf packs had developed songs that could traverse interstellar distances, carrying Earth's healing frequencies to planets in need. The moths had learned to extend their light bridges across vast cosmic distances, creating stable pathways for the exchange of wisdom. Sarah, her consciousness integration programs now spanning multiple dimensions, worked with the children to develop ways of sharing Earth's healing journey with the struggling civilization. They created living holographic stories, projected through the moth's light bridges, showing how Earth had moved from disconnection to cosmic awareness. These stories were translated into frequencies that the Pleiadian consciousness could understand. Their essence carried on wolf songs and bear dreams. Dr. Santos and Dr. Rivers combined their scientific understanding with cosmic wisdom to help the distant world restore its natural healing systems. They discovered that the principles of renewal they had learned in Earth's forests could be adapted to any living system, regardless of its physical form. The elder trees provided crucial insights about how different types of consciousness could work together to maintain cosmic harmony. The forest where it all began became a training ground for cosmic healers. Young humans worked alongside bear cubs and wolf pups, learning how to extend their healing abilities across space and time. The moths created practice environments where healers could experience different forms of consciousness, preparing them to work with beings whose way of existing might be radically different from Earth's patterns. Frank Turner's interdimensional architecture proved unexpectedly valuable in this work. His structures could adapt to serve as healing spaces for any form of consciousness, their very fabric adjusting to create environments that felt natural and nurturing to beings from other worlds. The buildings became living demonstrations of how physical form could serve as a bridge between different modes of existence. As Earth's healers worked with the Pleiadian civilization, they discovered something remarkable. The process of helping another world remember its connection to cosmic wisdom was deepening Earth's own integration with universal consciousness. The bears showed how each act of healing created new pathways of connection in the cosmic web, strengthening the network of living awareness that connected all conscious worlds. The wolves' songs took on new harmonics as they learned to weave Earth's healing frequencies with those of other worlds. Their howls now carried echoes of star songs from across the galaxy, creating a symphony of cosmic healing that could be heard on many levels of reality. Young wolves born during this time naturally understood how to move between different frequencies of existence, their consciousness expanding along with humanity's. The moths evolved into beings of pure light who could exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Their patterns became more complex, incorporating healing wisdom from many worlds while maintaining their connection to Earth's forests. They served as living libraries of cosmic knowledge, their light containing stories of healing from countless civilizations. Morning Star, working with the elder trees, began receiving visions of a greater pattern unfolding. Earth's awakening and subsequent role as a healer of worlds was part of a vast cosmic cycle of remembering. Other planets would face similar challenges, and each success in helping them remember their connection to universal wisdom brought the entire cosmic web closer to a new level of conscious evolution. The children, born during this time, developed natural abilities that their parents could only achieve through years of practice. They could instinctively understand the needs of other worlds, could communicate effortlessly across dimensional boundaries, could see the patterns of cosmic healing that needed to be woven. Yet they remained deeply connected to Earth's wisdom, understanding that their expanded abilities meant nothing without the grounding of compassion and natural wisdom that had started this journey. Great Mother Bear, her form now a constellation of living starlight, revealed deeper truths about the nature of cosmic healing. The universe itself was evolving, she showed them, becoming more conscious through the awakening of its many worlds. Earth's role as a healer was helping to catalyze this evolution, creating new possibilities for consciousness to express itself throughout the cosmos. Years later, on a crisp autumn evening, much like the one when her journey began, Raven stood in the ancient forest with her own granddaughter Luna. The child's eyes shimmered with starlight as she watched the moths dance between dimensions, their light connecting Earth to countless awakening worlds across the universe. The pendant at Luna's throat, passed down through generations of healers, pulsed with the same gentle rhythm that had first called Raven into the deep woods so many years ago. "Grandmother," Luna asked, her small hand intertwined with Raven's, "why did Great Mother Bear choose to help you that day? She could have let the wolf follow its nature." Raven smiled, touching her own pendant that now contained galaxies of healing wisdom. Above them, the elder trees sang their eternal harmonies, their branches swaying with cosmic winds. The bears, wolves, and moths that had become Earth's partners in healing moved through the forest like living constellations, their presence bridging worlds seen and unseen. "She chose compassion," Raven answered softly, "and in doing so she reminded humanity of its deepest truth, that healing comes from connection, from remembering that we are all part of one great living story." She gestured to the forest around them, where children from 100 worlds now came to learn Earth's wisdom, where bears of starlight taught wolf pups to sing interdimensional harmonies, where moths wove light bridges between realms of infinite possibility. "But the most important lesson," Raven continued, watching as a young bear cub, its fur shimmering with nebulae, played with children from distant stars, was that the greatest magic often comes from the simplest choices: to help instead of harm, to heal instead of hurt, to remember instead of forget. Luna nodded, her young mind already grasping truths that Raven had taken years to understand. Above them, new constellations shifted into view, bears and wolves and moths painted in stellar light, eternal reminders of how a single act of compassion in a dark forest had helped awaken a universe of healing wisdom. Morning Star's voice, now more starlight than sound, whispered through the ancient trees. "The story never truly ends, it only grows deeper, like roots reaching through dimensions, like light bridging galaxies, like love-healing worlds without end." And in the depths of the forest where it all began, a child who had lost her way found that she had actually been on the right path all along, the path that led humanity back to its place in the great cosmic dance, where bears could heal with starlight, where wolves sang the songs of galaxies, and where moths danced between the dimensions, carrying the eternal light of remembering. For in the end, it was all one story, of a child, a bear, and a forest where magic and wisdom flowed like light between the stars, healing hearts and worlds through all the ages yet to come.